All right, guys. So here we are. We are at Crushing Limits Unleashed podcast. This is episode 7. For the watchers, we've been on a long break, so there's no excuse. We are back at it, and hopefully, we'll have a lot more content for you guys in 2025. So, have a couple guests today, good friends and teammates. Uh, Longtime OG. We have Jordan Beckman, my buddy,
Sure. Heck
and we
yeah.
have a good friend, also NPC competitor. We have Ali as well joining us today. And today's topic is why you're not getting lean. Okay. Now this doesn't necessarily have to be for competition. This can be anyone across the board, even if you're just looking to, drop 20 pounds for the summer, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to hopefully discuss some of those topics
Yeah.
because there's probably a lot more that people miss that are just obvious, that are like right in front of you. So we're going to try to cover as many topics, and that should cover the episode today.
Yeah, for sure.
Perfect.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So the first one, again, it's going to seem obvious whether you have a coach or a plan or something you found online. The first one is simply not following the plan.
I agree. 100%.
Mhm.
It's just cheating on your diet, right?
Right.
Whether it's,
Right.
an extra few tables of peanut butter,
Yep.
it can be something as simple as not measuring your food.
Yep.
Those little things are going to add up. And, before you know it, you're at the weekend or maybe it's your check-in day and
Not
you're up a
you're
few
not there.
pounds. You're
Yep.
like, what the hell?
What's going on? I
Yeah.
think I think we've all been there starting out early on, right? Like you're not I know early on, especially when we started my very first prep ever, I didn't have a scale for the first like month. And I was like, I just like, oh, like this looks like it's enough food. But I mean, that throws you off so much. And like you said, it's those small details along the way that really do add up at the end. There was a when I was a brick mason for a long time, and there was a guy in the guy in the union, and he would always say, the joint on a brick in between the concrete in between that brick is a quarter inch. So he says if you're slightly off on that 100-foot wall, you'll be missing 3 or 4 or 5 bricks down the end. So he's like, pay attention to the small details because eventually, it adds up at the end of it. So,
Yep.
and we see that with a lot of competitors, just missing the small details. You know?
I made a rookie mistake. The first time I got a scale, I remember I didn't know there was like a difference between cooked rice and uncooked rice or uncooked chicken. And so that
Hammer the
messed me up big
carbs.
time. Yeah. It's very important to pay attention to those too, because
Yep,
those make such a huge difference.
for sure. Yeah, heck yeah.
Yeah, that's actually super important, Ali. Like, we've had some people along the way that have, just kind of assumed that it's the same across the board.
Mhm.
And when you think about it, if you don't put much thought into it, it does seem simple, like, oh, it's just, simple. But the thing is, like, like you said, the proteins, the carbohydrates, they all have different values when they're measured. So, obviously
If
it's throw off your numbers.
you're doing 1 cup of dry rice, you're hammering
Yep,
the
that
carbs.
messed me up. That did mess me up.
That's a lot of carbs, but also very impressive if you can eat all that food. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
funny.
so it goes to show that there is a measurement, just
Right.
like anything, any sport, any hobby, you're going to have those measures, where they are important, they do add up, and get you to the finish line faster.
Right.
Or accidental cheating on your plan because you don't know how to read
Yeah. Yep.
plan.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep.
Right. Or you don't know what you don't know too, right? Like, so like if you didn't know if it was cooked or dry, I mean, that's kind of like one of those things where it's like you can make that. I've heard on multiple occasions people make that mistake, that same
Mhm.
mistake. It's just you know, you just assume sometimes, and
Mhm.
assuming you should never assume. Always just ask. There's never a dumb question.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep, never a dumb question.
The other thing too, and it's kind of a mood killer for a lot of people, not guys like us, but it can be a mood killer because, and we obviously, you guys know, we have a very large team of clients. And one of the questions we have is, did you drink alcohol? And if so, how much? Kind of give me a short explanation here. And most people, I would say most people aren't quite sure about how bad it is for you. And we have talked about it on other podcasts. So we won't do like a deep dive, but again, kind of going back to those measurements, a drink here and there, a couple drinks a week doesn't seem like a lot, right? It doesn't seem that harmful. But over time, we see it just like an equation. I've had to have, many talks with clients explaining why exactly we're not seeing the progress that we should. And, it happens to come down to those drinks. Those multiple drinks are adding up and they are slowing your progress, among a whole slew of other bad side effects you get.
Yeah.
So it is one of those things to keep people aware that, yes, alcohol can be fun for a lot of people, but it is absolutely going to hinder your progress.
Yeah, it has no part in if you're trying to actually diet down and get in shape, it if you're drinking, man, you are just putting yourself behind. I mean, you're making it so much harder on yourself now. Not to mention if you're drinking and then you're not training hard enough or you're not hitting your cardio hard enough, I mean, you're just adding things against you. And it's not the plan that's not working. It's the alcohol that's, a big portion of that, you know, and then maybe not training as hard or not hitting your cardio as hard. I think sometimes too, when guys look at cardio and they see 30 minutes of cardio, it's like you still want to hit it with, some sort of intensity, usually, or depending on what your coach states. If it's a low steady state, medium steady state, hit cardio. But I think alcohol, there's no place for it. And
No. And some people will say, well, I feel socially pressured because everyone around me is drinking. Well, I don't know any bartender who would refuse to give you a diet soda with a little straw in it so it looks like you're drinking something.
right. But also
They're
too, it's
going
like
to take the tip.
it's like, I mean, go out when everybody else is drinking and be sober, and then you go, like
Oh,
yeah, I can't be out, you know what I mean? Like, and then you just
Mhm.
see, the alcohol brings something out of you, and
yeah. Well, and at the end of the day, if the people around you don't support you, are they really your friends?
right,
Are
You
they
got to
really
reevaluate
your
that.
people? Are they your circle if they're not going to
right,
support your healthy goals?
right. And they
Mhm.
gotta those type of friends, you gotta surround yourself with people that align with those with your personal goals, right? I think
Mhm.
that's what I was telling Chris when I first got back into trying to get back into the sport and stuff. And I was like, I had to surround myself with the people to stay motivated, right? Because my friends,
Yep.
since I've been taking time off, they, they go out and have a whiskey, they have an old fashioned Manhattan, go out and have a drink, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and it just becomes normal at a certain point, and then you realize like as you're trying to get into training, if they don't align with those goals, it makes it even tougher because then they're like, "Where you at? Why aren't you coming out?" Or
Mhm.
why are you changing? You know.
Yeah.
So definitely, I think surrounding yourself with the right people will make 100% just a big difference in your life, just in general, whether it's for competing, weight loss, um, financial goals, whatever that is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I've
Honestly,
also gotten to the, oh, you go.
no. Yeah. Honestly, I think, the person with the best perspective on this is for sure going to be Allie because,
Yeah.
she turned 20 last month. So, and we've been working together for almost a year. And initially, I'm kind of like, all right, so she's 19. She's awful serious about this. And I could tell, like, as the weeks progress, I'm like, damn, this girl's like really locked in, and like it reminded me of myself, like when I was 19 and 20, and I was like the unsocial kid in the gym all summer. So give us a little perspective, Allie, of what it's like. You just turned 20, you did your first prep last year, and obviously with our society, a lot of that age group is just out drinking, smoking, and whatever.
So, as many people know, I'm a very curious person. So I'm always open to um new experiences and trying things out to see whether I like it or not, if I want to keep doing stuff. So obviously, okay, I won't lie. I've already tried drinking, smoking. Absolutely hated it. The experience was just, I'm like, why do people do this? Like, this is fun. People do that on a daily, 24/7. And I'm like, I feel like shit. Like, this is not for me. And so I've been invited to parties and stuff, and I'm always the sober one, but apparently I'm the boring one for trying to be somewhat mature about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gotten to the point where my friends just absolutely stop asking me to go to them because they know that I'm not going to do anything. And I think what makes it harder too is because when I say no to those things, they're definitely going to distance themselves away from me, which is fine because that already shows them who they are as
Mm-hmm.
people. Like if you don't support what I do, you
Right.
guys can go ahead and do your own
Yeah.
thing. But I know that I'm going to be better in the long run than you just staying at home, partying all the time. And it's harder too, just because there are people around my age that don't have the mindset that I have.
Right.
So then I end up finding people that are older who I connect with more because I guess I have more mature mindset than people around my age.
Right.
So and I've gotten to the point where it's so easy for me to say no to those things because I don't care for social aspect or popularity. I only care for my own well-being and trying to be better for myself.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Y'all heard it here. She just called us old.
You hear that, Pops? She called you old.
I'm 70 at heart.
No,
That's
that's a great mindset. Yeah, that's a great perspective.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, Chris knows this, everyone knows this. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, it just gave me a weird notification. That, I mean, obviously when I was Allie's age, I was not like her. I was the typical partying, going out late, college, parties. And when I started competing my group of friends, I started, like you said, be the sober one and watch around you. I started realizing my social circle, they were doing the same thing week in, week out. And they were never like advancing in life. Like, yeah, it felt like they were still staying young, but then also like career wise, they weren't really advancing, like relationship wise, they weren't really advancing. Um, and when I took a different path, they were supportive, but eventually, because we weren't interested in the same things anymore,
Yeah.
we
They don't
felt,
want to hang out. Yeah.
It's almost like human nature that people separate
Mhm.
once they don't
yeah.
have things that
Yeah.
that they technically like align with together.
I
Yeah.
mean, just as they're not interested in what I
Right.
do for a lifestyle, I'm not interested in the bar scene anymore.
Exactly.
It's both ways.
Yeah. And that's why, like, I have a small circle. I'm sure you guys have a small circle too, because obviously quality over quantity. I mean, you can have
Absolutely.
a million friends who don't give a shit about you, but then those ones that do push you and support you for your goals, that's way more important. And those are the ones that you want to keep forever.
Right. I agree. Yep.
Definitely.
100%.
Yeah, Jordan actually touched on our next one. It comes to, a couple things, like you said, when you're slacking off on your cardio, or just something as simple as your training. Like we all have those days where you're not 100% motivated. Obviously, where we live, it's very cold out. So sometimes you don't want to leave the house. It can be a bunch of different reasons why you're just not feeling it. Maybe your muscles aren't recovered and you just don't quite want to go. Like your motivation is not a 10 out of 10, and you go in and you kind of just half-ass the workout, and when it comes to, like a competitive goal, if you're doing that over and over, it's just not going to work.
I think another thing people overlook too is like if you're so you give a training program and you give how many sets and reps, they're always like, okay, I'm gonna stop at this rep, even though I barely struggled. And that's another thing too. They gotta realize, is that last rep literally the last rep I can give and empty my tank? Or is it the rep where I just can half-ass it? And that's
Right.
where it's hard for me to understand because I always train hard or I always try to. And if I don't feel like I emptied my tank at the end of the workout, I
Right.
honestly would go back and redo it.
Right. I think though when there's a rep range, guys think I was like, okay, I'm done at 12. Well,
Hmm.
what it's really saying is, hey, you should be failing at 8 and push to 12.
Hmm.
In reality, some
Hmm.
people don't read the program like that, or if it's 10 reps, you're filling at 6, you're pushing
Hmm.
the last 4
Yeah.
reps out. And I think there's so many times where people take a program and they look at it and they go, oh man, this wasn't hard. It's like, you know, um, I think Chris said it today. We don't, in the mindset of the sport or bodybuilding, it's like we don't really count reps. Like we
No.
go until we hit um, kind of that fatigue point, right?
Hmm.
Or that intensity or that burn that we're looking to find to fill that muscle up with blood. And I'm telling you, if you switch your mindset just to that, and
Hmm.
you look less about the reps and you go more about what you feel,
Hmm.
you'll see improvements in training and with your weight loss. You know,
Yeah.
And your strength.
100%.
and your strength
Hmm.
for
Hmm.
sure. Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Stephanie knows that I can't even count the reps. Like
yeah.
when I'm in the zone in my
One, three,
mind,
five, seven.
yeah,
I'm
I'm at
like,
like
what rep are
12
you on?
already. And you're like,
No.
she's like, you did like 7. But if those 7 were hard, that's
Uh,
it. Like that's
yep,
the
Hmm.
set.
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
He can do more.
He can do more. So it's like, let's break out a rest pause now.
Well, or even like something that's timed. So, like, say you're not a competitor or
Right.
bodybuilder, but you're doing like a circuit style workout and it says do 30 seconds of this. Are you going to do 10 of that particular exercise or are you going to do 3 in
Right.
30 seconds? Like,
Right.
maximizing what you do with the time you have
Right.
during whatever workout it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I think individually people have different training styles. And I think early on people don't quite know, or they're just maybe uncomfortable with the equipment or uncomfortable with training in general. So I think sometimes people just go 10 and 12, it's a hard number. I'm gonna go for this, even if it's not hard. And then, I'm sure Chris has probably seen this. People will, message them a month later, say, "Hey, this isn't really. I'm not, maybe this isn't hard enough for me. Can we switch this up?" And it's like, no, it's
I need
hard.
a new program.
I need a
Hmm.
new program. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like training programs are written a certain way, but I think people interpret them so different. And that goes back to say, like, you don't know what you don't know early on. And I mean,
Hmm.
if you're just like, you know, what is it? Like not a competitor, but like the
Like a lifestyle.
lifestyle client.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Especially, you're just getting into it and you're just, trying to learn and get healthy. You may take this program as gold and say, hey, 12 reps, I'm doing it, but I'm not getting sore anymore. It's like, you know,
Hmm.
I think at the end of the day, especially for competitors, it's time under tension. Is cliche as it sounds,
Mhm.
is you know what I mean? We've all heard it 1,000 times. As cliche as it sounds, it's time under tension. How
Hmm.
how long can you stress that muscle to to see results?
Yep.
And
Mhm.
then also like progressive overload too. I mean, I remember when I first started lifting, I would only stop at 12 reps in the same weight, even though I could have easily gone up maybe 5 pounds the next set.
Yep.
And a lot of people, I think, are too afraid to go up in weight to
Yeah.
challenge themselves too. So.
If you hit 12
Especially
easy, go up.
women.
Women for sure.
It drives me insane.
Hmm.
Well,
Ladies, you are
yeah.
stronger than you believe you
And you've
are.
heard. Hmm.
Well, I
Just
don't
make
want
sure your
to.
form is in check, though.
It's
That
like the
too.
whole. I don't want to get too buff. It's like, oh shit, man. I wish it was that
But it's
easy.
not the lifting weights that makes you buff. It's literally the eating that makes you buff.
Right. Eating and sleeping. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the next one we'll cover too is going to be blood work.
Right.
So, I would say, me and Stephanie probably see this in 5% or less of the clientele, where we've thrown the kitchen sink, we've thrown everything we can, whether it's cardio, different diet manipulations, training, different supplements, and almost pretty much nothing is working. And that's usually a telltale sign that, hey, something is off hormonally.
Yep.
Which is why, I mean, you guys know, as clients, we have all our clients get blood work, at least bare minimum twice a year, if not more.
Yeah.
Especially if you are competing, because a huge mistake, whether you're a lifestyle and you're going into a cut, calorie deficit, or you're trying to win your next show, if you start that prep and your blood work is off, I mean, it's kind of like you're not going to be able to reach the finish line.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you don't see where your markers are at, you don't know what's off and by how much.
Yeah. My saying with that is, if you got a Ferrari, you better get an oil change.
Oh yeah.
You better go check,
Yeah.
you better do the preventative maintenance side of stuff, because yeah, definitely, if you're high performance and you're, whether you're lifestyle or you're a competitor, I mean, if you want to compete at the highest level, I mean, you're literally, that's one box you need to check,
Mhm.
right? Because otherwise you have things that are going against you leading into prep. Now you know, that's not gonna allow you to be able to deliver at the end, right?
Mhm.
Especially when you get really lean. And we know when we get really lean, hormones start doing crazy stuff, right? Because your body doesn't want to be sub, 4 to 6% body fat.
Mhm.
Right.
Yep. And it's one of those things where, I mean, you guys have been around it enough. You guys know that the sport is expensive, you know, just like other sports are expensive.
Yeah.
Golf is very expensive, you know. But the thing is, and unfortunately we saw a couple instances last year where, a client didn't want to spend the 250 on getting blood work. And it's like, well, we're not really going to get very far. And 250 is really
That's
a
fair
small
price.
number.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, compared to the long run, because now, not getting blood work, now we've kind of wasted 6 months together.
Right.
Mhm.
You've kind of spun your wheels for 6 months, and it's like, we've gotten no results. We obviously urge you to get blood work for a reason. We're not just saying, hey, go throw 250 away. Like, it is for a valid reason.
Right. Right.
Well, competitor or not, like I just feel everyone at a bare minimum should understand what's going on with their body once a year.
For
Mhm.
sure.
Mhm.
Even if there's nothing going on, just for peace of mind, like, hey, my lipid levels like are good. Like
Yeah.
I don't have bad cholesterol. Like
Yep.
Mhm.
at the bare minimum, like I just feel like that's a number like we should know. And I do wish another rant for another day or another
Podcast.
set of
Yeah.
people. I wish health insurance covered more things because I do feel like health
I
insurance
agree.
should cover an entire panel for everybody once a year,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
not
Well,
just
yeah.
cholesterol,
Yep. The
but
full,
let's
full
check our
panel.
hormones every year.
Mhm.
Let's
Yep.
check
Full panel.
everything
Yeah.
and let's prevent more.
Yep.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I think
Yeah.
we could go down a rabbit hole with that, because I have my own issues with the health, you know the medical system here, just in general, about for your mental health, and how they would supplement for your mental health, but not say, hey, maybe you need to take iron, or maybe you need to get vitamin D3.
Mhm.
They'll just be like, here's a band-aid. I would say band-aid over a bullet wound. Yeah, it kind of fixes it for a temporary, but it never really actually helps you in the long run. And I think, you know, not to go down the rabbit hole, but I feel like that's 90% of our medical system, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So another one that we'll kind of cover, and this is going to be different for our listeners. Obviously there's a lot of different coaches out there, a lot of different coaching styles. You guys already know our belief in refeeds and cheat meals. But they do have parameters, so we'll often, as you guys have seen, we'll do videos on the parameters, and kind of explain the importance of why you need those parameters. And that goes into our next one, which is, we've all seen it. The cheat meal turns into the cheat day.
The cheat week and
Yeah.
Cheat weekend.
Yeah. And it's like, I would say 1% or less of people, we all know that, genetic freak that probably can handle a cheat day, but that's not for the norm.
He's an
No.
anomaly. That guy's
Yeah.
an anomaly, wicked fast metabolism. Like, yeah, we all know a guy like that. That's just, he's been shredded his whole life. It's just he's naturally like that. Your normal person is not going to get away with a cheat day. They're going to feel it, and it's going to take a lot longer for them to get that glycogen burnt up or stored body fat now.
Well, and maybe the first time you do it, you don't see the negative side effects, but you keep doing it every
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
It really is going to add up.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
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 I feel
Every
like it
year we
also
seem
doesn't.
to. Oh, go ahead. You go ahead.
I said I feel like it also doesn't help when you're like in a deep cut too, and you're just so like in such starvation mode that it's so easy for you to go off the rails the weekend and make it like a cheat day, you
Yeah.
know.
Or a
But
cheat night.
yeah.
I've waken up in the middle of the night getting ready for a show and ate a whole thing of almond butter, and I was just I was on the treadmill the next day for like an hour and a half. Like, oh my
Oh
God,
my
I
gosh.
can't believe that. But yeah, it's like, you got to be disciplined,
Hmm.
and sometimes, if you don't surround yourself with the right people, you definitely can lapse
Hmm.
relatively easy,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
because sugar's a bigger drug than most people talk about.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it's addicting. So, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah. All good points. The next one, we've talked about in a prior podcast. Um, we have our beliefs on overtraining. I know some coaches do like deloads and all that stuff. Our belief, to kind of sum up is as long as you're getting the proper nutrition for the most part, I mean, you're not really going to overtrain. But the overtraining I'm talking about is, it could be a beginner, it could be someone advanced, could be someone that just loves to train, right? I mean, we all love to train, which is why we're doing this. But if you're in a caloric deficit, whether you're trying to lose 10 pounds or win your next show, and you're in there training for 2.5 hours, that's not going to work. You know,
Hmm.
you
yep,
might feel fine the next couple of days. Maybe you might feel fine the next few weeks,
yeah,
but that is definitely going to catch up to you, and you're going to start, your cortisol is definitely going to creep up.
yeah, and you risk injury too, right?
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
if you're training 2 hours, like it's crazy when I see people in the gym for 2 hours, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you're not hungry. Like your body's telling you, feed me. Like I'm hungry now. Like go home and eat. Go home, eat
Hmm.
and sleep. Get that rest. But I like this topic, and I would definitely want to hear what Chris has to say on this, Stephanie and Ali too as well. Just because you guys know me, I'm Mr. Intensity. Because I like to bring it, but what a lot of people don't realize is that I do take my rest days, and I do rest hard. I rest as hard as I train. So
Yeah.
I guess Chris, like, what is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, you do have to go all out in the gym. You have to, and I think once you really learn that, some people have it, some people don't, and some people can learn that, to train like you're at gunpoint, to train with proper form, with proper intensity. And if you're doing it right, you're not going to want to train the next day. Like you're going to feel beat up.
Yeah,
I mean, and something too that I've noticed too, maybe Stephanie, I know for sure I can raise my hand and say, a decade ago when I was in my prime, it's like I could do no wrong. You know,
yeah,
I could go in there, I was crushing, 2 leg days, with you and Dave,
yep,
and I would be unaffected.
yep.
And now it's just like, man, I get up and I'm like, gosh, my legs are like, I'm like,
Shot.
Hmm.
I'm not ready to train anything today.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 And you
I think a
almost
How
feel
lot
about
like
of
you,
the next
people,
Stephanie?
workout is not as good too, right?
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people too, like over the importance of rest days too, because I feel like a lot of newbies too, when they start training and they love training. I trained 7 days straight.
That's
Even
crazy.
yeah, I just
Must be
love
nice to be
training.
20. Must be nice. Us old folks over here.
Yeah. No, I hated rest days. I always felt like I'm so lazy and I'm just not doing anything. I'm gonna lose all my gains, but your body needs it. And I pretty much ignored what my body was saying in the beginning when I first started lifting. And then I finally gave like one rest day and yeah, it helped a little bit, but then now I take 2 rest days and it just makes such a huge difference too because your performance is going to be better the next time you hit a session and you're not going to be as fatigued too. So, yeah.
Well, if you're not run down and you're utilizing your rest days, you're sleeping adequately, you're eating proper nutrition, you're going to be able to perform max effort when you do go in for the gym. You're not going to
Hmm.
be having these little half-assed workouts just because you feel like you have to be at the gym. You
Right.
know,
Hmm.
I think the newer people, like when they first start working out, and I felt it too, like when I first began, it's like, oh, you're lazy if you're taking your rest days. Like,
Yeah.
you know, um, you want to take a rest day. We're different. I don't want a rest day. I'm
Right.
hardcore, like all that
Hmm.
Right.
bullshit.
Yeah.
When science has proven
The
our
rep is enough.
body
Yeah.
grows when we recover.
Correct.
Hmm.
Yep.
So it has nothing to do with being hardcore
Yep.
or badass,
Yep.
but you're
Hmm.
able to perform better. And intensity does live in the gym, but it doesn't mean if you're there training for 2.5 hours, you're not intense. You cannot tell me straight faced, 100% truth that you are intense
Yeah.
for
Hmm.
2.5 hours in the gym.
There's no way.
On your phone, you're
Yap
taking too
sessions.
long of breaks. You're
Yep.
talking to people. You're posing in the mirror. You're sitting and listening to music. You're dancing, whatever.
You're
Like
trying to
it's
set your
not,
tripod up. Yeah.
Hmm.
yeah, trying to set your tripod up and take 7 takes of
Oh
your
my
glute
God.
thrusts
Yep. Yep.
that nobody cares about. I don't want to see any more glute thrusts.
Yeah.
Um,
It's like you want to know why you're not losing weight? Leave the tripod at home.
because you're worried more about Instagram.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I used to be so bad at it. Like my training sessions would be like 2, 3 hours because I had yap sessions in between. But now it's like I get it done within an hour. It
Yeah.
makes such a huge difference.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
yap before or after the workout.
yeah.
Man, if
Yeah.
someone stops me during a workout, I just want to leave. I just
Yeah,
want to leave the gym. I'm like, oh, this workout is crap
Done.
now.
it's crap. I'm done.
I get, it's like when you get there, especially it's like if you're training and then like obviously like even like Chris, he knows a lot of people at the gym, and it's like sometimes that can be tough because everybody wants to ask you a question and get an answer because you're the experienced guy there, and sometimes you kind of got to just be like, hey, I'll get to you. Give me
Hmm.
30 minutes. Let me finish this up. And
No
it's
hard
not even
feelings.
yeah, it's not being rude, but for some of
Hey,
us,
remember your
you know,
weekly check-in? It's a
yeah.
great opportunity to
Yep, to
ask
ask
Hmm.
yourself a
questions.
question.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. But it's like it's that. It's like, hey, I need 30 minutes. And for a lot of us, like especially for me getting back into it, like that hour and I have 3 kids, so it's like being able to get like, I have a set time where I have to get in, get out. I got to make sure my workout's on point and be able to get home and put my dad hat on and help take care of the kids and get the house straight and organized and prep meals and stuff. So sometimes, it may come off as, oh, he's just being a jerk. But then in reality, it's like, no, I'm on a schedule.
You
You know
got
what I
shit to
mean? Like
do.
I'm on a schedule. I have stuff I gotta accomplish. And, I mean, many successful people would tell you if you can follow a plan, if you follow your plan and you follow your discipline, like you'll be successful. Like,
Hmm.
and that's with anything in life, right? If you can just
Mhm.
if you're good at being able to follow a structured plan, you'll be successful at whatever you do, you know?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. The other thing you guys kind of talked on earlier is sleep, and doing our weekly check-ins. I can tell you, I see a lot, especially too, I'm guessing just because of the holidays and everything gets so busy. But a lot of people neglect their sleep and think that you're still going to make that same progress.
Yeah.
You know, and it goes into what you guys were saying about recovery, where yeah, you might be able to function, you might be able to, you know, we all know someone that just gets 3-4 hours a night and they're just like, how are you functioning? Like,
Yeah.
and you work multiple jobs, like how are you alive?
Right.
You know, but the thing is they might be able to function 100% at their job and daily activities, but when it comes to fat loss, there's going to be a point where your body says enough is enough. That's it.
Yep. You can't cheat this. You can't cheat this. You can't buy it. You can't cheat it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's harder too when people have longer work shifts. You know, some of your clients, they work 12-hour shifts and they got shit to do throughout the day, and then it's already sleep and then back to work. I mean, they can only get 3 to 4 hours of sleep. It is what it is, but they still push through.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
But that's
100%.
where, like Jordan said, having a schedule and sticking to it. Like when you are at the gym, you get it done, and then you can control what time you go to bed.
Yeah.
So not dilly-dallying at night with Instagram or TV if you don't need to. Like we all need a little time to unwind maybe before bed, but if you don't have 3 hours at night or 2 hours to watch a movie every night and then go to bed, like maybe you only have 30 minutes to unwind.
yeah,
And
prioritizing, yeah, is super important. Yeah.
Yeah. I have an alarm and it goes off and it says go to bed. And I put my phone down and I go to bed because otherwise tomorrow, the next day, I'm struggling. I'm struggling at work. And, you know, Chris can attest to this, man. If you're tired and you're doing sales, like it's tough, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's difficult because you talk to people all day, you're mental, you know, and you got to be sharp, you know, throughout the day. But I do have an alarm that goes off. And when it goes off, I sit on my phone, I put my phone down, put it in the charger, and I am off to bed. You know, even if I'm restless and I'm moving around and I'm still there. I'm still resting. I'm still trying to get, you know, some sleep, you know. You know, so.
I feel like when I'm in a cut, I'm way more tired because of what I have to do throughout the day, including the workout and cardio. I will knock out so early.
Yeah.
And there are times when I'll just wake up with my phone on my face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you just fall asleep in the car.
Yeah. Yep.
Calling me out.
Not driving. Not driving.
Not
No,
driving.
no.
It's like I spent my whole night out sleeping in the car. Hopefully it was summertime and not winter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So our last one that we're going to cover, this one, I mean, it kind of has to do a lot with just being disciplined in the off season, which we've talked about a little bit, but it's starting a cut just too out of shape. You know, like when sometimes people, you know, they'll reach out or they'll inquire about our services. And then, you know, of course, the first step is let's see where you're at, you know, where are your current progress pictures. And part of that has to do with just not wanting to pay a coach in the off season, which I get. You know, I don't think there's any coaches really that are like cheap nowadays.
Yeah.
So it is going to cost you, but at the same time, what you're paying for is accountability.
Right.
Because when someone comes to us, you know, and you're 43 pounds above your stage weight, that's going to take some serious work. And a lot of times, you know, it's just when me and Stephanie look at the plan, we have to see like, we have to have a lot of perfect weeks here to be able to drop that 43, you know, and the big question is, can we get there? Like, can we get there with, you know, say 16 weeks or 20 weeks?
Right. Right.
You know, so it has to, you know,
and if you don't have the funds or the means to be with a coach in between your shows, then you have to be a person who holds yourself accountable in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Whether you have a good friend that you send pictures to or you take pictures yourself and hold yourself accountable, or, you know, ask your coach when you're done with that show prior, like, what's a good off-season weight for me? I'm never going to deny anyone that. Like, where I will give someone like, hey, here's a good range for you to sit at so you don't get too complacent. And then, yeah, don't get too complacent. Because then when you do start a new program with a coach, you have to have every perfect week, which is hard if you've been having fun for 6 months, 8 months, 10 months. You've just been doing what you wish.
Or 7 years.
Now you think you're going to be perfect week one, but but you don't have the opportunity or the time because you didn't give your coach enough time because you said you want to do XYZ show and you're coming in already 20 pounds over what you should be off season, but you're messing up the first month.
Right.
Mhm.
I
Chris and I have
go ahead.
oh,
Sorry.
Chris and I have talked about this too. Like we both said, treat your off season like you're in prep too. Obviously, you can still have little treats in there, but obviously in moderation. And that's where people don't realize when I'm in off season, oh, I can just do what I want, whatever I
Yeah.
want. No, that's not the case. And Chris even said, like, off season is where you win, and that's super important.
That's where shows are won right there.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Off season. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's there's kind of a fine line when it comes to off season because like as coaches and doing this for so long, and you guys know too, like unless you're like a robot, which me and Stephanie have been robots for like a whole 365 at a time just to see if we could do it, but like we don't expect you to be perfect, whether it's in prep or off season. We're humans, right? So, but if you're like 95, 96% compliant, like you're going to put yourself in the best position to win, whether it's dropping that 20 pounds or winning a pro card, and the off season is where you can afford like, hey, my brother's in town, like I only see my brother twice a year. Like I'm not going to deny going out to eat. Like we're going to go eat, but then,
you can still be mindful there too, right?
Yeah.
Like of what you order, like,
you can still be
you can make it
mindful,
work.
or you can make adjustments later in the week, or you
Yeah.
can adjust the day accordingly so that it's not this massive caloric surplus that your body isn't used to. But yeah, like Chris is, alluding to, like the off season is where you can have a few mistakes. You just be mindful of how many mistakes are adding up over
Right. Just don't
time.
let those mistakes turn into like, all right, I have, lost
Yeah.
full, discipline and I'm just off, off the rails now. I think that's where a lot of people start to get to is where they'll have a little chocolate here. They'll have a little snack here. And then they go,
Or for me, like I know myself because yes, I've been the robot, like
right,
where it's just chicken, rice, oats, like the same foods all off season. And then when I enter prep, I feel very like unhappy because I feel like I've been eating the same thing for 2 years straight.
right.
So I know for me, I have to switch up some of my sources. And
Hmm.
even though they're not the worst ones, like, maybe I throw in more fruit in the off season. It's
Right.
not a bad thing, but I don't do a lot of fruit during prep, but
Yeah.
it's switching up some sources so
Yeah.
that when I do start a prep, I'm happy with chicken and rice, or I'm
Right.
happy with my vegetables.
Yeah.
And, I don't feel like I've been eating them 365 days straight for the last
Right.
5 years.
And I think a lot of people think when we cook our food too as well, it's like we cook with, obviously conscious things that are not going to
Oh,
add calories to our food, but they think that we're like boiling our chicken. They
no.
think we're like, what I mean? Like, what I mean? It's like, no, no, no. We have some seasoning on there. There's some salt and pepper on the chicken and some seasoning, but we're not going overboard with it. But no, like our food still tastes good. So I think when people like get into diet mode too as well, they think it's bland and they think
Hmm.
it's hard to diet because, oh, well, I gotta boil my chicken or do something crazy. It's like, no, no.
Or
I think,
top everything with
yeah,
butter.
yeah. It's
Hmm.
just, and it's just like, it's consistency. That's all. If you can be consistent and then start making those slight adjustments to adjust one thing out of your plan, adjust the next thing out of your plan, or supplementation or cardio, like you'll start to come down. It's just if you can just stay rock solid and not miss meals, not miss cardio sessions. Because even like I've gotten back into it, and I will say after taking so much time off, that first week was tough.
Mhm.
My body was I was going through some stuff, man. Like I just felt like I couldn't stop using the bathroom because I'm eating clean and like my body I feel like was just pushing all the bad shit out. And I was just
Detoxing,
like,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But like after like a week or two, like I started waking up with more energy. I started to feel a little more sharp and but yeah, it's taking that time off and getting back into it, it definitely was challenging because for a long time I told myself like, oh man, this would be nice. I can do it next year. I can do it next year. and then you just never do it. You never get back into it because you kind of lose that structure. And I will say, for somebody who started, you know, damn, it's been 2014. So what's that? 9 years ago is when I first started bodybuilding, and then taking a
10.
little bit of time off and kind of feeling like a newbie to get back into it, and kind of feeling like that, that lifestyle client who's just starting again. That is a challenge, but I will say this, if you can find the means to stay disciplined, you know, after a week or two, it's going to be second nature. Like you'll just eat the meals because your body needs it. You'll feel it. Go, oh shoot, I'm hungry. I got to eat now. Yeah.
And if you just stick to it, you're gonna like the food.
Right.
I would tell people like if you haven't eaten green beans for months and months, the
Yeah.
first time you have them, they're gonna taste like dirt. And
Yeah.
that's where people are like, I hate veggies. They taste terrible. Just keep with it for a week.
Yep. Yep.
Green
You'll be
beans are
okay.
sweet.
Yep.
Like,
You'll enjoy that little bit of sweetness that you get from them.
yeah. Like, if you cut all veggies from your life and then you suddenly reintroduce them, yeah, they're not going to taste amazing at first, but your taste buds will adapt and
Yep.
actually start to crave the clean foods if
Clean
you
food.
keep
Yeah.
giving your body the clean food.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Just like if you keep giving your body sugar, it's going to crave sugar.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, like I still eat chicken and rice for like most of my meals, even during off season. And my body has gotten used to it. And then when I go to work, everyone's like, "Are you eating the same meal?" I said, "Yes, I am." They're like, "How can you do that? That's so boring." I said, honestly, it it doesn't even taste boring to me because
Yeah.
you can make it any way you want. You can put sauces any way you want. But then again, I always view it as I'm eating with purpose. It's
Yep.
gonna help me in the long run. It's
Yep.
gonna it's gonna every meal counts and it still tastes good to me.
Yeah. And you don't got to worry about anybody at work stealing your food. So,
Exactly.
that's
Yeah. They're like, oh, that's Allie's. And yeah, that's
it. Oh, chicken and rice. I'm not going to take
yeah.
that.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, that was good. Yeah, we covered a lot of topics. I want to finish this one out with you can either do 2024 takeaways, what's the thing or two that you learned in 2024, or maybe something that you want to change in 25. Not necessarily a resolution, but more of like a takeaway, like something that you're going to take with you this year.
Right. Who wants to go first?
I'll start.
Yep.
A couple things I took, and it's always a learning process with coaching. So you guys know this is my 22nd year of coaching clients, which is it's crazy to actually say out loud.
Older than me.
Yeah, older than Ali, over 2 decades. But one thing that I'm going to switch in 25, which I've already kind of made the adjustments. When someone pays me for a longer term, I'm not talking about like a 3 month, because 3 month flies, right? But this is more of like if a client signs up for 6 or 12 months, no, they're not paying me to live with them and cook their food. They're not paying me necessarily to babysit them, right? Even though as coaches, sometimes you do have to babysit. But in a sense, we all get those times where we're not as motivated, which we talked about, right? And everyone needs that accountability, myself included. So on those longer term clients, 6 or 12, they are paying me to keep them motivated and accountable. So of course, with so many clients, there are those that just kind of fall off the face of the earth. And one thing I have been doing the last few months is reaching out. Hey, haven't heard from you in a while. What's going on? How can I help you get to your goal? So that's something that, I took away from 24. The other thing too, which it seems to be kind of the theme of 2024, unfortunately, we're going to change it in 25. But, and this goes for anything, lifestyle or contest prep, is that at the end of the day, not every day is going to be easy. But the most important thing is, in order for you to achieve your goal, me and Stephanie, we cannot care about your goals more than you. So
For sure.
for a lot of contest prep people that were, this close to winning a pro card, literally one judge away, one sway of one judge, where it's like I treated the prep like it was my own prep, checking
Yeah.
in with my clients every morning. Hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Do you get your posing done this week? Did you get your cardio done? Are we checking all the boxes?
Right.
And that just comes from experience. It just comes from doing 31 shows and knowing it's not going to be an easy feat to win your pro card.
Right.
But at the end of the day, whether you sign up with me or Stephanie or a different coach, you have to care about your goal more than your coach or your financial advisor or your teacher, right?
Yep.
So that's what I'm taking with me next year.
Yeah, I think the way I look at it, what he's kind of getting at is we can't be putting more into a person's prep than they're putting into it.
Right.
Just kind of learning those hard lessons of, we shouldn't be having to beg people to practice their posing. People got to want it to
Right.
get it. It can't be us wanting it, even
Right.
though we do. Like we want
Right.
it for everybody, right? We want
Right.
everyone to achieve their goals, and we're always going to motivate and drive and
Right.
push. But finding that fine line of too much hand holding and doing it for
Right.
them,
Right.
and them realizing and wanting it for themselves.
Right.
So just some lessons in 24 of, and also at the end of the day, Chris and I have lives of our own.
Right. Right. And
So
I also think you guys are really great with that, like motivators. I mean, I can say I've worked with a lot of coaches, and you know, you guys, I think even early on when I just started, prepping with Chris again, he he's like, okay, like how's the meals going? Like he's checking in because he genuinely cares. Like he actually cares about your prep. He actually cares if you're dieting correctly or if you're hitting your workouts and I think for somebody like me that lights a fire underneath my ass. Like he cares. I better care. You
mhm.
know what I mean? I should be caring more than he does. So I've always appreciated that about you guys is that you can go to any coach in Minnesota. Nobody's gonna do that portion. Nobody's gonna say, hey, because we all get it. Like life happens, and you may fall off one day, or you're having, we all go through, whether it's depression or relationship issues or family issues, and sometimes your coach just saying, yo, hey, like how's it going today? How are you feeling? And you go, it kind of refocuses you, realigns you, and you're like, you know what? This was going on. I've had a shitty day, and like being transparent with your coach, and just saying, hey, man, like, dude, I've gotten like 3 meals a day. Here's why. Like, life happened. Like, yesterday, Diana was throwing up. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing I could do about it. It's just like, it just happens. It's like, it kind of threw me off. I was going to hit a little bit of cardio last night, after we got back, but it was just like, I got to take care of, my lady throwing up. So, so,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay.
Yeah,
and then she trains today. Like, no problem. Like, all right, whatever.
crushed it.
Yep. So,
I kind of want to add to it. I mean, like you guys are super consistent and always checking in, and I appreciate that as a client, but then also as a friend too. I mean, we have a relationship outside of the client and coach relationship, and it's just refreshing to have someone to be transparent because you guys have seen it all for the past 22 years, so it's nothing new. I mean, there's never any sort of judgment from you guys, and that's what makes this team awesome too, because we're always constantly supporting each other, even if we don't know each other that well, but we are always finding ways to better ourselves in our own ways. So,
for sure. For sure. For
Right.
sure.
I'm always open to listening to someone if they're struggling with something. And I put that in for all my clients, like, hey, I want to hear from you first
yeah. And I
Yeah.
think
before
people
you
like,
before you go off the rail or something, because I care. If you're struggling, I want to know.
mhm, yeah.
But uh what else about 2024? I
What was the
learned
question again? Sorry, what was the question again?
what were our takeaways from 2024,
I
right?
Yeah,
gotcha.
something like it can be something that you just like realize maybe you're doing something or maybe there's stuff that you're not doing that you want to make the adjustment, in this year?
Yeah.
Even, so going off of like I can't want something more than a client, right, for their goals. I mean, I learned that within myself this year in my own prep, and mentally my heart wasn't fully in that prep. And it it relayed into my presence on stage. I struggled. I obviously talked with my coach slash husband about it. Um, and me being the person I am, I finish what I start.
Yeah.
But I learned that you have to be 100% in it to really succeed and that's for any goal. It doesn't just go for a prep or a weight loss goal, but I learned that and I'm going to leave that behind in 2024. It was, a humbling experience for me. It was not my best prep. It was not my best performance. Um, it wasn't my proudest prep for me.
Yeah.
Mm.
So am I up? I think I'm up, huh? I'd say one thing that I took away from now is this pertaining to just like are we saying like for just a bodybuilding or just like personal like what how does that question
Oh yeah,
are we just
it can be anything. Life, it could be
gotcha.
across the
I
board.
would, I would say in 2024, I took away like becoming more patient, slowing down. Don't be in such a rush, right? I think, 10 years, I think I met you 10 years ago, Chris. I mean, if you think about that flu, you know what I mean? And sometimes we forget to slow down and just appreciate things, whether, it's the experience you're going through, um, good or bad, right? Like you can always learn from, if you slow down, you can always learn from something, good or bad. Um, but yeah, I think in 2024, one thing I say I took away is just slow down, be patient. you know, Great things happen with time, right? So, you just gotta, get good at doing that, taking that. You might not see 20 steps ahead. It might be so dark you can't see down that path. But if you can see in front of you, just take that one little step towards the right direction and just the next step you see, take the next step. So just being patient has I think that's one thing that I'll take from, 2024. And one thing obviously 2025, you know, I'm coming for gold, man. It's time for me to. You text me and Diana. It was like, "You guys owe me a pro card." I go, "Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I do." So,
No
so
pressure.
no pressure at all. No pressure at all. And if and I know it's I've been far enough removed from bodybuilding, but like I still feel like I have that in me to go out there and compete at a high level. And in 2025, like I think me and Chris have a great plan, and we're heading in the right direction now. And it's I think we're gonna some people are gonna see who I am. So,
100%, man. I love
yep,
it.
yep.
Love it.
So my 2024 takeaway, it's a little bit of Stephanie and Jordan's. Um, so when I first started my first prep, I didn't know what I was going in for. I was just gonna do it for the experience, which is great because I wanted to see what it's like stepping on stage. And then of course Chris and I talked a little more. He um reviewed what I had in me and during the prep I just loved everything about it. The hardships of it. Just doing everything I can to be the best that I can be mentally and physically. And so I realized that like if I really want to, let's say, get a pro card, hopefully maybe step on Olympia stage one day, I have to give it my all. Like this is a passion, and at the end of the day, I have to be almost, well, psychotic about it, be obsessed with it, because if I can't give it my all, I'm not gonna look the way I want to be on stage. And that's another thing too. I mean, I've got a few people that are like, why are you always at the gym? Why are you always eating this, 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 this? And I said, because this is all gonna add up to what I'm gonna be in the future. Like those small little things will help me in the long run, and that's what's gonna make me successful. And to top it off with Jordan, I also got to be patient too. I mean, I'm still just a baby in this bodybuilding world, and I want to give myself some time to grow. So that's why initially I was going to do a show in 2025, but I'm going to take that time off to grow and come out hopefully even better in 2026.
For sure.
So,
For sure.
Yeah, 100%. It's gonna pay off.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I was 20 again. Oh man. Oh man, if I just took that time and just grew, I mean, you really you got to fall in love with the process, not the prize.
yeah.
If you enjoy the process, man, the prize is gonna be there at the end.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
mean, it doesn't even have to be bodybuilding that you have to be passionate for. I mean, it can
Right.
be anything else. You just got to
Right.
get all if you want to be successful at it, you know?
Yep. Yep.
And you got to learn to delay gratification. You got
Yep.
to be in things for the end goal,
Yeah.
not just
Yeah.
what's quickest.
Well, yeah, yeah. It's like if you win a first place really quick, I mean, you need to find something harder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's because you if you get first place and it's like your first, whether it's show or match, or whether it's you're doing grappling, you're at a tournament and you get first place, well, you need to put yourself around more competitive people than at that point. Maybe not switch the sport, but you need to do harder things because um you know that's inside your comfort zone. You got to get uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. You have to get outside that comfort zone and experience.
100%. Yeah, well, this was awesome, guys. Yeah, this is a lot of insight. Very good. Loved it. Love chopping it up with you guys.
Okay.
So that
Thank
wraps it up for
Yeah.
today. Of course, thank you guys for being on the show. There's going to be more.
Yeah.
And of course, subscribe, like it, share it.
All that good
Comment on
stuff. Yeah.
topics.
Yes. Comment on topics too. Yeah. Let
Throw
us